Jacob, just as we go through, if there's something as I'm going through the presentation as well, feel free for you to jump in with questions just in case that might make sense. And then for everyone, if they put their questions in chat, we can look to come to those at the end. But you'll have good insights as well. So if there's something that you think it might be worthwhile you jumping in there.
Of course. Thanks so much, Colin. Thanks so much. Well, look, why don't I hand it straight over to you to kick off?
Perfect, great. I will go to share screen and PowerPoint, and we are. Is that showing up for everyone?
Yeah, it is loud and clear for me. Thank you.
Perfect. So delighted to have the opportunity to speak to everyone this morning, and thanks, Jacob, and to the team for setting up. So my name is Colm Cronin, and I am currently the Senior International Officer at Dublin City University. I have good knowledge of the higher education sector in Ireland. I studied at University College Cork. I worked at the Cork Institute of Technology. I worked at Trinity College Dublin. I worked at University College Dublin, and now I'm very happy and proud to be working at Dublin City University. I also worked in Ireland's Immigration Office, so I really know the entirety of the sector. But I'm going to be talking to you today about DCU, as we say, Ireland's University of Enterprise, and trying to offer you some insights into what DCU is all about, its approach in this COVID-19 world, and why I think it's a great place to study. So a couple of things probably to take away. I'm not going to read through every single slide, and you're all capable of reading, but what I would say is there are a couple of things there around, I suppose, the standouts for me are the fact that DCU is a young institution. It's celebrating its 40th birthday this year, and it is in the top 100 young universities in the world. I think the other standout there, and I'll talk to this in a little while as well, is the fact that it was listed as Ireland's leading university for graduate employment rate, and it was number 19 in the world. So there's a real focus at the institution on our students graduating and going out into the world and being ready for the world of work and getting jobs and getting good jobs and then progressing in those jobs. So there's a real focus on ensuring that graduates have the skills and abilities that employers are looking for. And Jacob is recording this, and again, I can make these slides available to everyone after this presentation, so don't worry, you're not going to miss out on anything. But that hopefully gives you kind of an overview a little bit around some of the headline figures on DCU and the fact that it is recognised worldwide as being a very, very good institution. So I don't know how much any of you know about Ireland. It is a little green island in the North Atlantic located beside the UK. It's a place where we're very fortunate. It's very picturesque, incredible history on this island. And the lovely thing about Ireland is it's possible to, I suppose, travel both around Ireland in a very short space of time, and also it really is the gateway to Europe. And Dublin is, in an Irish context, Dublin is a large city, but in an Indian context, it is not. It's a city of about 1.4 million people, and it is a very walkable city. It's easy to get around, but it also has great public transport infrastructure, and DCU is located very close to the city centre on the north side of the city. But I think it can help to maybe set the scene a little bit if you understand the geography of Ireland. So I suppose right now it would be important to kind of talk a little bit around the COVID-19 situation, which is improving day by day, fortunately, in Ireland. I know it's a little bit different in different places around the world, but Ireland is really beginning to open back up. And even today, there was an announcement around the speeding up of some of the phases. So we're going through this phased reopening, and it is to take place in a 3-week basis. But we're going to see our restaurants and even now our hairdressers and barbershops reopen at the end of June, and we have our shopping centres which are going to open up in I think next Monday is when we're going to see some of those. So we're really beginning to see progress made, and Ireland is very happy with the measures that it took, and I think Ireland really looked after international students in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, and DCU ensured that any students who were staying on campus or students who were staying off campus but maybe needed to a new place to live, they were looked after, they were able to have some place to go. So I think DCU can be proud of what it did, and the Irish government ensured that everyone had access to healthcare if they needed it, and that they were able to, for students who lost their jobs, they were able to access the COVID pandemic payment of €350 a week. Or if they were in a job, they were then able to work full time, because it was really important that people who were working, continue to do so to keep the supply chains running, to keep the economy going. So Ireland really ensured that people were looked after, but we know that the reality is that the social distancing measures in particular are going to go on for some time, and so we've had to take some actions in relation to that, and that's what I'm going to talk to a little bit. Like right now, I'm talking to you from my living room, and the DCU campus itself won't be reopening until the 10th of August, but the academic calendar, at least the early part of it, is now in place, and lectures are going to begin on the 5th of October, a little bit later than they usually do, I suppose, but that's to ensure that everyone has time where possible to gather things together. So one of the big things that DCU did was the online on time initiative for postgrad students in particular, but also for undergrad students who aren't able to travel or who don't wish to travel. So this is a way of offering certainty to students, because while things are wonderful at the moment, and we're all really pleased with the progress that we're making, this is still a very new virus. It's really, about 6 or 7 months is our understanding of it. So nobody can be certain about what the future holds. So what the Online on Time initiative is, it's about ensuring the health and safety of our staff and students, ensuring the quality of education, and to ensure the best possible experience. So it means that students would take that first semester online, and then they would come to Ireland and be on campus for the second semester, potentially a hybrid if necessary, and then for your dissertation or practicum, that would be done on campus. I mean, look, the important thing, I suppose, is we are going to endeavour to do everything possible to have students on campus, but we are mindful, as I said, this is a new virus. We can't, nobody can make you 100% promises, because health and safety is what is most important, and so we will always be guided by that. But there are good things happening in terms of the research into a vaccine at the moment, and we're hopeful that we'll see an awful lot of progress as we move forward. I do a lot of work with students, so I really want to see students back on campus, but what is important is that health and safety aspect. So that's where DCU is coming from for PGT students. And this isn't just international students, this is all students, whether they're in Ireland, in the EU, or outside of the European Union. It's going to be online for that first semester, and then looking to bring students onto campus from January onwards. So I suppose the important thing around this as well is this isn't new to DCU. DCU has always been a leader in terms of digital technologies and teaching online. So the virtual learning environment at DCU is known as Loop, and that's something that's existed for a long time. It's probably being maximized now, but it's not new. And I'll talk a little bit later about the student experience of students who went online this semester and what that was like. But I think the important thing to recognize as well is that even though that first semester for PGT students is going to be remote, you will still have access to lecturers. They will still be available to you. So it's not like everything is just going to be uploaded online with a voiceover on presentations. It will be interactive, it will be engaging, they will look to create communities and communities of support. So I think that's really important. They will also take into consideration the fact that people are, in different time zones. I'm talking to you now, like this is mainly our students in India, but we would obviously in DCU, we have students from all over the world, students in the Americas, students in Africa, students in Australia. So they will take that into account. Lecturers will do different meetings and they will make recordings available. So they will be cognizant of the fact that students are all around the world. And what I mentioned around that community and communities of support and all of the resources that are on campus will also be available online. And the reality is that with social distancing measures, it's not like even if you are in Ireland, you will have direct access to all of these things. We're going to, like at the moment, shops are reopening, which is great to see, but we have to line up, we have to queue up in terms of the numbers of people who can go into shops. Large group meetings can take place. So the library have put a huge amount of effort into ensuring that their resources are available online. The math support centre, the writing support centre, they're all available online. The careers centre is going to be available online, so you'll still be able to meet with careers advisors. And student support and development, SS&D as it's called, DCU, is one of the things DCU can be really justifiably proud of. There's an enormous commitment at the university to ensuring that students are supported right throughout their journey, and that has continued to work really well even online, and it will continue to do so. So even if you're starting online, you will still be a member of the DCU community. You will still be a student. And remember, the lectures aren't starting until the 5th of October this year. Students will be coming to Ireland, to start classes in January, but you can start probably arriving in December. So it's not like you're missing out on a huge chunk of time. And I think the other thing around this, as I said, Ireland is beginning to open up, okay? And it's a little bit like an onion, if you know how an onion is, and there are different layers to it. And I think that's what the recovery from COVID is going to be. It's going to be layered. And so as time moves on. So by the time people arrive, in December or January, we're really going to hopefully be back on our feet after all of this has taken place, and we'll have a much better understanding of the virus and how to best overcome it and how to best approach things. So I think hopefully that has kind of explained what DCU is doing in this COVID-19 world, and that everything is going to be available to you. And I'll talk a little bit more around a lot of these now over the next few minutes. The fact that you still will be eligible for Stamp 1G, the graduate stayback, which is really important. The fact that you'll still be a DCU alum. So none of this will change even if you're taking that first semester online. I think that's what's really important to stress here. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier, I know it's a question that a lot of people have, will there still be jobs in this COVID-19 world. How will Ireland be impacted? And I've talked about the fact that DCU was ranked number 19 in the world this year in the QS rankings. So that tells you that, like, of all the universities out there, DCU is number 19 in the world. It tells you how like the emphasis that we put on graduate employment rate. And one of the things I think that is looking at the Irish economy and the sorts of jobs that we have in Ireland. I really think that the Irish economy will bounce back strongly. I think you can see some headlines there from the Irish Times and Silicon Republic. The OECD said the impact in Ireland will be the least severe. And you can see the Wall Street Journal and Business Insider talking about big tech and the fact that they continue to hire. Facebook said they're going to hire about 10,000 people this year. I have a friend who actually is responsible for managing Wix, who set up websites. They are currently hiring 150 people because they have been so busy. So big data, tech, pharmaceuticals, all of those industries which are so important, they are really strong, and they're even more important in this COVID-19 world. So what you can see on screen is just some of the companies that have their European headquarters in Ireland. So when it comes to software companies, that is so important now. And I think we're all learning, just how beneficial some of, the online transactions and online meetings can be. Of course, we all want to get back to face, but I do think in a post-COVID world, things will never go back to exactly the way they were, and there will be a lot of learnings, and I think you'll see even increased collaboration with different companies from around the world. So that big data is really important. Financial services will always continue. I mean, you can see what has happened in terms of the stock exchange. The NASDAQ has been way up this week, and obviously medical tech and pharmaceutical are going to be huge as well. So I really think on the career side of things, there will be phenomenal opportunities for those who are graduating next year and in the years to come, and that the opportunities that have existed in Ireland over the last number of years, they will continue to exist. I really think that will be the case and will continue to be so. And the Careers Service do an awful lot of work in terms of helping students to get ready to take advantage of those opportunities. So whether that is getting your CV ready for the Irish market, teaching you a little bit about the work culture in Ireland, bringing in alums to talk about their experiences and how they went about finding jobs in Ireland. That's another thing that they do. And I mentioned about the stay back, and in terms of working part-time, and I think this is where even, if you do have to spend the first semester at home, I think that the part-time work the traditional part-time work will probably take a little bit longer to bounce back, because cinemas, cafes, restaurants are going to take a little bit time to open up fully, and with social distancing there'll be some restrictions there. But by the time I think we get to into 2021 and we move towards St. Patrick's Day, which is traditionally such a big event in Ireland, and we have so many tourists, those things should hopefully be back open up, and we should be back to seeing full restaurants and full tourist amenities, and the opportunities should be back then as well. Now, I suppose when it comes to student life, there's the traditional kind of supports that you see around in many of the institutions, but one of the things that I suppose I can talk to at DCU, and where they put a focus in, and I've got a student testimonial here, which you can, from an Indian student who's in the MSc in computing. And again, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and have a look at this. But you can see he talks really about the support he received throughout his journey at DCU, and helping the student to navigate that move to Ireland, that transition to Ireland, the transition to studying at DCU, and throughout his journey. And one of the other things, and I'll provide this to Jacob, and he can send it out to different members of the team so you have access, is I've conducted interviews with a number of different students from different faculties about their experience. And these are students who were studying at DCU this year and who had the experience of moving online, because all the teaching at DCU had to move online in March. And they talk about what it was like to learn remotely. So they will be able to offer insights to people to explain what that was like, and they can tell you what their experience of going through the visa process is like. So that's one of the things that we've looked to do, so that students can hear from other students about what the experience was like. So you have somebody from the business school, somebody from the Faculty of Engineering and Computing, and somebody from Humanities and Social Sciences. So three of the biggest faculties, and students from all over India. So again, those will be made available after this webinar, so you can watch them yourself. Each of the interviews is about 15 to 20 minutes or thereabouts. And like on campus, when you do come to campus, we do have all of the facilities that you would expect, and the sports facilities when we are, in that post-COVID world. The DCU just recently won Sports Campus of the Year for the second year running. So there are a huge emphasis on the sporting facilities at DCU. And you can see there, we've 150 clubs and societies, and we really endeavour to have students have a holistic experience, because that is what employers are looking for also. Okay, they want to see, and the academics are absolutely the most important piece, but they want to know that you can network, they want to know that you can work in teams, they want to know that you're able to approach things creatively, and that you can work with different groups and different communities. And one of the things that DCU has, and this is where it really walks the talk, is the UNI module. And that is, it's voluntary. It's up to you whether you choose to have it on your transcript or not. It's not compulsory. But for people who are involved in societies or clubs, or who do volunteering, they can have an additional 5 credits put on their transcript, which shows that they were involved in life outside the classroom. So extracurricular activities, we do recognize that at DCU, because we know just how important it is, because it can't just be 100% studies. It is important that you have a holistic experience and that you get to meet other people. I talked a little bit about Dublin earlier on, but one of the things I'd say is it's a remarkably safe city. It's consistently named amongst the top 5 safest cities in the world. It's a young and it's a vibrant city. I talked about its location and the fact that you have easy access to Europe, but the fact that you can get on public transports, you can be at the heart of this cosmopolitan city where Google and Facebook and PayPal and eBay all have their European headquarters, this cosmopolitan city, and yet in 20 minutes you can be out by the sea, or you could be out in the mountains. And in the interviews with students, you'll hear them talk about those experiences and what those experiences were like. And we're very fortunate as well, the history that we have. I mean, we have structures in Ireland that are older than the pyramids, so you have the opportunity to go and visit museums, and for a lot of the museums they're free. So it really gives you the opportunity to really experience Ireland when you do come here. Now, I know there have been some questions around accommodation, and I think this is another area where DCU has really looked to, be creative in a COVID-19 world. So there are on-campus accommodation options available. And what DCU has done this year is they're taking an approach where they are going to make accommodation available on a needs be basis, like where possible. So if a student, maybe a student needs accommodation when they first arrive for a short period of time, or there's a period of time that's particularly intense, students can book that. Or if students want to book for the entirety of the second semester, students will have that opportunity as well. So right now, kind of what's going on is that they are providing accommodation to the continuing students, and the timetables are all going to be available should be available at the end of July. And at that point, they'll know who from the continuing students will need accommodation. But all the information about this is on the accommodation website. So if you have a look on there, you'll be able to see the information. But really, it's not going to be for those coming for second semester. It's really not going to be until July or August that you're going to actually be booking that accommodation. But you can go onto the website and have a look right now to see the approach, the innovative approach that DCU are taking, and that again is to try to best facilitate students where at all possible. Of course, some students go for off-campus accommodation, and that still will be available. And we've actually seen a huge increase in the amount of off-campus accommodation available to students. And I think that is something that hopefully will continue going forward. We're seeing new accommodation being built. And I think we will also see restrictions on Airbnb and some of the short-term lets. So that will make more accommodation available for semesters or for longer term for students. And again, this presentation can be made available to you afterwards, so you'll be able to go through it. And I talked a little bit about Dublin being, a compact city and being able to get across it. Now, DCU is located in Dublin 9. Dublin is divided north and south by the River Liffey. So on the right hand side there, you'll see all of these numbers 1, 2, 7, 8 that are different postal districts in Dublin. So generally the odd numbers are on the north side, the even numbers are on the south side, and the lower the number, the closer you are to the city centre. But as you can see there, Dublin 7 is closer to the city centre than Dublin 5. And Dublin 8 is closer to the city centre than Dublin 6. So it's Ireland, so sometimes it can be a little higgledy-piggledy, but it's all, it's so compact. I live in Dublin 8, and usually I'm able to walk to work at DCU. And that's the other thing. The weather in Ireland, you may hear about the weather, there are lots of people tell stories about the weather. I walk to work every day. Rarely is the weather so bad that I have to take the bus or anything like that. It's a very temperate climate. But I think what that shows is that if you live in different areas of Dublin, you'll still be able to access DCU. You just need to make sure that there's public transport available. And on the DCU website, the map there in the bottom right-hand corner shows the bus routes and the train lines that all allow easy access to DCU. And there are different types of accommodations available, and we'll guide you on what to look out for and how to avoid any potential scams, which are rare but can happen. But we will look to guide you as much as possible on that. So I suppose the other thing to kind of look at maybe is in terms of immigration. So again, right now, there is a temporary pause on visa applications. The hope is that all our visa offices should reopen on June 22nd or as close to there as possible, depending on the particular circumstances of that visa office. So it's time for people to gather documentation where they need be. And I talked about again the third level graduate scheme, the stay back scheme that allows students to stay back and work full time in Ireland and look for a job that will provide them with a work permit. The INIS, the Irish Naturalisation and Immigration Service, they have said that even if a student has to take that first semester online, it will not have any impact on the stay back. Okay, so I think that's really important to know that INIS have absolutely guaranteed that. Now, it doesn't apply to online courses, so if you see somebody advertising a completely online course, that the stay back will not be available for that. So you might see some people who are saying, oh, you could just do all a course online. No, that is not what the case will be, and that's not what DCU is doing with Online on Time. That truly is to ensure the health and safety, but we're going to be bringing students onto campus and having that on-campus experience for second semester and going forward. Now, I know that there were some kind of questions around deadlines and applications, and I suppose the thing to say around that is we're looking, ideally, we would like to, the deadline is the 15th of July, but we are going to be as flexible as possible in relation to that. The important piece, I suppose, is that students have to have a visa to begin their course, okay? So as I said, the semester starts on the 5th of October, so you have to have your visa by that date. Now, what the visa office have said to us is that if students use the VFS Verify service, they reckon that they can will process visas in 4 weeks. This is what the visa office are saying to us, so hopefully that will be the case. So that will mean that as long as you're making your application by late August, early September, you should be okay. Though obviously the earlier you make your application, the easier it will be and the quicker you'll get your decision. But certainly, we will endeavour in this instance. We know that there are some barriers for students that are simply beyond their control, and that students are doing the best that they can. So we will look to be as flexible as we can possibly be. And the other thing I suppose to say is that we are still taking applications for the vast majority of our courses. So all our Faculty of Engineering and Computing courses are still open. And the ones where I suppose there are some that might be of interest would be psychology is closed, and we have some courses that simply aren't running because they're not able to work in this COVID world. But those are translation studies and things like that. I don't know how many of you out there are thinking along those lines, but if you're thinking of the MSc in computing and data analytics or things like that, that course is still open, and you will be able to make an application for that if that is what you want to do. And again, I think in terms of payments, I think the important thing to recognize is that you have to have made a minimum of 50% of your fees before you apply for your visa. Okay, that's the thing. So you're going to have paid a minimum of 50% before you apply for the visa. And what I'm saying is the latest date I think that you can apply for your visa is late August. I hope we'll get further clarity as we go along, and this doesn't have to be the last webinar that we do. Once the visa office opens back up, we'll probably have further clarity on just how long visa processing is taking. Hopefully they can adhere to that 4-week turnaround that they're talking about. So we just have to wait and see on that. But so a lot of the deadlines are really this year being dictated by the visa, and as I said, we will endeavour to be as flexible as we can possibly be. And what you can see there are some of the contact details, and alongside the interviews with the students, I would tell you to check out the social media accounts, because it will help to give you an idea of the institution. You can see the international office's social media accounts there, but check out the main DCU accounts as well. It kind of gives you an overview of the institution and what it's like to study there. And really, I would hope that like you can look forward to coming to Ireland. You can know that you're doing that first semester online, but that all of the services will be available to you, and that when you do come to Ireland, you will have that on-campus experience, and that when you graduate, the third level graduate scheme will be available to you. So I think that's it in terms of the presentation, but I have certainly time to take some questions from you, Jacob, or from anyone out there who has questions for me.
Colm, that's great. Thank you very much. That was such an informative presentation. I'm going to stop the recording now. I think that recording has stopped now. Thank you. And does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, great to type them in. So Som Duta, I think, Colm, you covered this already. Start date for first year undergraduates.
Okay, so first year undergrads is slightly different, because for those students it is their first time in a university, so they're going to do a longer orientation